This is the gateway to today's walk, to today's adventure. We're gonna start by way of paradise at Kensal Green. We need to find a plan of the cemetery because we're looking for a very specific lot, a very specific site within this vast cemetery. It's very unlikely to be able to see this, but hopefully something will come across. We're here and we're looking for this area here between plots 142 and 143, or square, so right at the other end. So we've got to walk through the cemetery to there, and that is the key location that marks the official start of today's walk. Who knows what it is? And the thing buried between those two squares in the cemetery isn't a body, isn't a person. It's a river. The source of a river, the source of the Counters Creek, lies between those graves here in Kensal Green Cemetery, originally opened as All Souls Cemetery, one of the Magnificent Seven and the first of two of the Magnificent Seven that we will be visiting on this walk along the Counters Creek. And we will be guided in today's Lost River walk by Tom Bolton and his London's Lost Rivers, A Walker's Guide Volume 2 book, which has a very detailed description of the course of the river, which is just as well, because in Nicholas Barton's Lost Rivers of London, which I also have with me, there's just a paragraph on the Counters Creek, whereas Tom gives us the precise walking instructions to follow the river. All Souls Cemetery, opened in the 1830s, so named at that point because the land belonged to All Souls College, Oxford, as does much land in this area still to this day, I believe. And it was the first of the magnificent cemeteries, inspired by Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, and they were developed to deal with the crisis of London's parish cemeteries overflowing. And I believe this is the last of the Magnificent Seven that I am filming. Well, I'm not filming, I'm making a video on this, I'm just passing through, but I think it's the last one to not be in a video. I don't think it's in a video anyway. All the others are in previous videos. I'll link below because I did a video just on Nunhead Cemetery. Highgate Cemetery has its own video. But it's interesting actually, a few of them are on Lost Rivers. Stoke Newington Cemetery is on the Hackney Brook. West Norwood Cemetery is on the River Effra, and then I think Nunhead is that. I think Nunhead might be. Is it near the River Peck, perhaps? Maybe not. I'm not entirely sure about that one. But I'm trying to think if any of the others are on Lost Rivers. But yeah, they're all in other videos anyway. So I think this is the last of the 7 that I am filming. And an interesting thing, I'll talk about it more about the source when we get there, because I did a project up here a few years ago. It throws up an interesting question. And I created some audio walking guides to 3 of the Magnificent Seven for a wonderful group called Advantages of Age, and I will link to those below. You can download, and this is one of them. I did it here, Nunhead and Tower Hamlets. The cemetery became a success following the burial of Prince Frederick, Duke of Sussex, one of the sons of George III, and later his sister, Princess Sophia. Having a royal association gave All Souls Cemetery a tinge of prestige and made it a fashionable place to be buried. Subsequently, many famous people were buried in All Souls Cemetery, including author Wilkie Collins, widely regarded as the inventor of the modern novel, Charles Babbage, mathematician and credited as the inventor of the idea of the computer, along with Ada Lovelace, and the great engineer Isambard Camden Brunel. Recent notable burials include Freddie Mercury and the chef Gary Rhodes. And the cemeteries were intended to be kind of like gardens, peaceful gardens, parks and gardens. And to this day, a lot of them are preserved as nature reserves, particularly when you look at Nunhead is a particularly good example, also Tower Hamlets. But they're such beautiful, peaceful places to visit, and this is certainly one of the most magnificent of the Magnificent Seven. But you will be seeing Brompton later as well, so make your own mind up, really. I think this is the magnificent Anglican chapel. They used to do tours of the crypt here, they do regular tours, but it seems all fenced off, doesn't it? It's not in good shape, but it is a really majestic building. Our source of the Countess Creek is on the other side of it.
The majestic Portland stone and stucco Anglican chapel was designed by John Griffith in 1835. It's built in a Greek Doric style with marble sculptures. There's a large network of catacombs beneath the chapel.
So Tom does give very sort of precise instructions how to find the source. Stand at the back of the chapel at the bottom of the steps facing away from it along the main path that leads west. I think that's here. And he says, to your right is the tomb of Major General Marcus Waters. I think we have that. We have that here, Marcus Antonius Waters. Walk along the path ahead a short distance and take the second path on the right through the graves between a red marble memorial to Christian Pattern and Thomas Cardwell and a light grey one belonging to William Smellie Graham. This is the path on the right here. We've got the Pattern and Cardwell tomb, and on the right, on the left here, sorry, we've got Smellie Graham, and then turn left after the 8th grave beside a small oak tree. I can see it up there now. So let's count those. We'll take this as number 1, the first grave, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess Smellie was the first one. Turn left, small oak tree here. Yeah, that's an oak tree, and a small square slab in the centre of the path covers a well. Well, we can see it from here, can't we? Look, clear as day. Now, Tom says if you move that heavy stone, there's a very long, deep brick-lined shaft that leads to a well, to a spring that fed the Countess Creek and provides the source of the Countess Creek. I'm not going to move that because it's actually quite dangerous. If I wasn't able to get it back across, it would be, you know, it's unguarded. So I wonder who is buried at the source of the Countess Creek. Charles Milne Cholmondeley and Charles Cholmondeley Downing. This grave you can't identify, nor this one next to it. What an incredibly romantic source for a lost river. I mean, a lost river in itself is kind of mysterious and romantic, but rising here, if I can get it in shot, in the middle of one of the Magnificent Seven cemeteries is truly magnificent. The thing is, when I did a project up here at the wonderful Kensal Rise Community Library, I worked with the local history society, and when we did a walk around the streets of Kensal Rise, which runs north of here, up onto even higher ground, we're on very high ground here, which we'll see in a minute, but Kensal Rise goes even higher. Right at the top there, as we reach the Bronsbury Ridge, a ridge of high land that cuts across North London, a member of the local history society said that up there, and I'll show a map and all this kind of stuff, that was the source of the Countess Creek, much higher up on the Bronsbury Ridge. Now, we know from other lost rivers, and rivers, they often have more than one source, so it's not as if this didn't feed the Countess Creek, but maybe there's a source further up on the Bronsbury Ridge as well, not instead of it. I don't want to contradict Tom. Tom's a great guy, very, very, very thorough researcher. However, I also would never go against the local history society. So, yeah, I'll include some of that information in here as well. So we've got both sources covered.
You'll be aware that I mentioned to you Countess Creek which sort of rises underneath what is now Kensal Green Cemetery, but would have fed from this hill, from underground waters from this hill, would have trickled down into there and then emerged at what was Counters Creek, which feeds into, which becomes various other names as it runs towards the Thames, but it feeds into the Thames.
So basically the river flowed directly south from here, all the way down to the Thames at Chelsea. And it's a fantastic route, goes through White City, crosses Fulham Road, King's Road, goes through Earls Court, Olympia, all of that jazz, before it drops into the Thames at Chelsea Creek. And this is the magnificent map in the back of Nicholas Barton's Lost Rivers of London that shows all the rivers in London, lost and not. And here's the Counters Creek here, rising in Kensal. He has it rising in Kensal Green Cemetery as well, and then just flowing straight south, sort of around the edge of Notting Hill through Nottingdale, and it marks the boundary between two boroughs, Kensington and Chelsea, and Hammersmith and Fulham. Unfortunately for us, there is no exit to the south of the cemetery, so we have to go on a massive detour out onto Harrow Road, along and down Scrubs Lane, and then we're back on the course of the river. After that, I think we can pretty consistently follow the river. That's interesting. You're supposed to be able to walk that way, but you can't see. Maybe having to take detours on the detour. So we'll pick up on Harrow Road or Scrubs Lane, one or the other. So we've turned left out the cemetery gates onto Harrow Road, and then we're going to turn left into Scrubs Lane. This part of Harrow Road is featured in London Overground with Ian Sinclair. We walked along here with Chris Pettit, the great filmmaker who lived in this area once. It's where his wonderful film Radio 1 starts, not far from here. I think we had lunch over there in that place, although I think it was called something else then. I think if we go down here, down Waldo Road, we can cut the corner off, which doesn't seem a very dangerous thing to do, but you never know with me. I'm deviating from Tom's instructions already. That was nice. It was lovely to meet Michael back there, a viewer of the video, shook my hand, walked on. What a lovely fella. Thanks, Michael. Made my day. Here's a really nice collection of old industrial units here, which look like they've been very kind of artfully renovated as well. Still looks like places of work, probably offices for like interior design companies, production companies, that kind of thing really. This is great, isn't it? This old pub frontage here, Carrington's Fine Ales and Stouts. Unless it's Charrington. Someone will say, you should have said Charrington's. I think that's Carrington personally. And sort of Kensal Green, Kensal Rise, Harlesden, Kilburn, classic examples of areas where these sort of resolutely working class industrial neighbourhoods have become very expensive, like very, very expensive. The growth of this area from the sort of middle of the 19th century onwards was really defined by what's on the other side of that wall there, beneath those cranes and towers. Willesden Junction railway sidings, huge railway sidings. And that really defined the nature of this area. And I think it still does. It still does give it a kind of hinterland feel, even though, like I say, the houses have become so expensive, it's become shishi. Still retain that industrial, slightly grubby feel to it. Looking back down there over the cemetery, you get a view of the walk ahead, going south down, going south to the Thames at Chelsea. I'm so looking forward to this. Nicholas Barton mentions that another name for the Counters Creek is the Billingswell Ditch, or the Billingswell Brook, named after a local well further down, I think near Earls Court. But Tom Bolton talks about how the name the Counters Creek rarely kind of comes up, I think, until the 19th century, and it's believed to derive its name from a bridge, again further south, Countess Bridge, and it's believed that was taken from the Countess of Oxford, who owned land in the area, a woman called Matilda, Countess of Oxford, I think in the 15th century. But Tom lists all the various different names, the parts of the brook or the creek, the river, has been known by, but rarely ever, the Countess Creek, which is really interesting, isn't it? That that's now what we call it. So the culvert that carries the Countess Creek actually passes under the Grand Union Canal, just along here. This is the Paddington arm of the Grand Union Canal. I walked that 10 years or so ago. There's a video back in the archives of my channel here. Magnificent iron bridge here on Scrubs Lane. So the river is running across Little Wormword Scrubs, which is this undergrowth here on the left, or we can't actually access it from here. So we turn left off of Scrubs Lane into what's called Mitre Way, but that becomes Delgano Gardens. So that's Little Wormword Scrubs, open space over there. And the river is basically crossing there beneath the ground, crossing Delgano Gardens here. And then it is running behind the houses to the left of the screen here. There's not really any physical signs of the river, as Tom points out. This is North Pole Road, supposedly named because of the remoteness of this area. And I wonder if that Tesco's Express over there in that rather ornate building was once the North Pole pub that Tom mentions in his book, which I think was published in 2019, because we did a walk to commemorate its publication. Yeah, I can see it there. And now it's Tesco's Express. So the Countess Creek is basically running underneath Cauldron Place there. You can see it hits a dead end. So we're going to go past the North Pole pub and turn left down Latimer Road, I think it is, or Latimer Gardens, and the Countess Creek will be running behind the houses on the left. Mick's Fish Bar on the corner of Latimer Road looks good. I'm going to resist it. This is Latimer Road, with the river running on our left there behind the houses. So here we have the great West London Cathedral of the Westway, which makes you think of the clash, doesn't it? Westway to the world and all that business. So we basically just follow the road round to the left and then right under the Westway. I had a screening of my Bob and Roberta Smith film under there somewhere once. It was amazing. It was a huge space projected on a big screen at one end. It was incredible at the Portobello Film Festival. Great institution. So we're following basically the path round to the left here, then we're looking for Freston Road, which is on the right, and that is where the river is flowing through here basically. This is Freston Road, and the river is running to our right here, and we're kind of we're coming close to Grenfell Tower, or the Grenfell Tower estate, the terrible, terrible tragedy of 2017. This area of North Kensington was once used for potteries and also brick making, more to the to the west really. And in that area you get the kind of what became a notorious slum of Notting Hill. I think that is more on the course of the Tyburn. Tom refers to that area around there called Tyburnia. What's interesting though is there are a number of kind of piggeries around there, pig farms, and also they were digging out the earth to make clay and bricks and pottery. Wormword Scrubs was also a land of kind of pig farms as well for hundreds and hundreds of years. Fans of Ben Aranovich will already know the book, which I've forgotten the name of, which deals with the Tiber, the landscape of the Tiber, and all of this is part of that story with the pigs living in the sewers as the river was buried. Maybe it's the Countess Creek, but I'm pretty sure it's the Tiber he's talking about. And there are the magical clay tiles, ceramic tiles, which contain magic in them. That's a brilliant Ben Aranovich book. Which one is it? Is it Lies Sleeping, perhaps? Go into the comments to find out rather than me put it on the screen, because that's fantastic, and that is linked to the kind of not the folklore, it's linked to the actual history of this area behind me, to the west there. So we just go left here, turn off Preston Road into Mortimer Square, and then right into St Anne's Road, and then we're bang on the course of the river, according to Tom Bolton. So the river is running right down the centre of the street, and this, I think, is really the centre of the old Notting Dale. One of the things I love about doing these Lost River walks, and I know a couple of people do question it after a while, is it just forces you to walk through parts of the city you might otherwise not bother with. If you're walking through Notting Hill, kind of as we are now, North Kensington, Notting Hill, you'd probably walk through the more picturesque parts of the area rather than down here. But if you're sticking to the river, you just follow the river. That defines the journey. The lost buried river is what is leading us through the landscape. Interesting buildings here on St Anne's Road. They've got a vaguely ecclesiastical kind of vibe to them, haven't they? Unlike the more classic kind of Notting Hill houses you see here, although you're not going to see it in that shot, but they are down that road, St James's Gardens. So the river flowing behind St Anne's Road cuts across Queensdale Road here. So we're going to go down Queensdale Road and turn left at the end. So here's a very tangible location associated with the course of the river. We've got the drain cover here, apparently marks the course of the river. We've got this little bit of parkland here, which is a classic sign of a buried river. And if I turn around, we have this paved square, and I think the river's running through here. And the area to my left here, by Royal Crescent Mews, you can see it's slightly sunken there, and that's been prone to flooding according to Thames Water, and they've had to address the issue. They've got quite a few issues to address at the moment, haven't they, old Thames Water? Crescent Mews here is definitely a place where you can see marks of the river valley, and that's where we're going to go. We're going to go down here. There's really lovely mews here, Royal Crescent Mews. Very peaceful despite all the noise surrounding us. So we've turned up out of the mews, but it's good to look down there and you see that was the original course of the river, although the sewer that now carries it is where I'm stood, right near the Stuart Arms, which looks like a nice place to sit outside and have a pint. And we're going to carry on. Along here, and I guess we're going to go up. We've got to go under the road there, quite a busy road. Our walk is going to continue on the other side of this really busy junction here at Holland Park Avenue, Holland Park roundabout. I think we're going to Hansard Mews, which is just straight ahead, I think, which is where the river's flowing. They give you 4 seconds to get across these crossings here, which doesn't really feel long enough, really. There you go. Hansard Mews is just on the other side somewhere. And we're very clearly looking down into a river valley here. So the shape of the land is becoming more apparent as we go further south towards the Thames. Wow, and this is Hansard Mews. Really delightful. I love the way it's sort of the dappled sunlight created by the leaves from these trees. Gorgeous. We're going down Elsham Road here, and the river is to our right, not behind the houses, but a little bit across to the right. But obviously, you know, if Tom's telling us to go down here, this is the way we go. I have to admit, there is a certain sort of romance to West London, isn't there? I guess it's because it's became postcard London, but you know, it had its, you know, bohemian 60s and 50s. You know, it wasn't just sort of holdouts for oligarchs like it is today. We continue here down Russell Road, and the river is still to our right. Tom Bolton's book here, London's Lost Rivers, A Walker's Guide, Volume 2, is packed with information. In fact, I was looking at it earlier, I was getting information overload. There is so much information about the entire course of the river. So I urge you to get this book if you want to learn more about the river, the sewers and all of that stuff. It's in the book. I'm only going to plunder Tom's book for the route and not, you know, not the meat and drink, not the solid info. And you can feel the shape of the land here in Russell Road with the high ground rising to our left. We're walking through the valley of the Countess Creek here. This is a really interesting view of the, what I guess is the back of the side of the Kensington and Olympia Exhibition Centre. And now they've demolished Earls Court Exhibition Centre. This is the last one here, isn't it? I wrote about that in my book, Welcome to New London. That was a wonderful campaign, still active campaign, I will link to below, to save homes and heritage in this area. So according to Tom's instructions, we cross the bridge here and the river is running, I think, near the tracks. I'll just check the map again. So I think the river must be running down there, beneath the track somewhere. So we're going to go down here, down Olympia Way, with the grand Olympia Exhibition Centre to our right here. I'm sure you've all been here at some point for something. It was built as an agricultural hall. Doesn't it have quite the same colourful history as Earls Court Exhibition Centre, which they ground into dust? But even so, there will have been notable things, circuses. I think the dog show used to be there. And here's a list of the bands that played there. It sounds like I was epically wrong about that. Jimi Hendrix, Rod Stewart, The Cure, Chemical Brothers, Primal Scream and Skepta. That's right, mate, carry on. And here's more evidence of how the river acted as a kind of boundary. You've got Kensington High Street to the left there, the river running across the road, and then to the right you've got Hammersmith Road. And we go to the right and then straight left. Question is, do I go in this fine looking pub here, the Hand and Flower, for a pint? It can sometimes scupper a walk, or in this case it could fuel it on the final stretch. Stay tuned to wait and see what happens. So it's just as well I did stop for a pint. Not only was it refreshing, although I did make the mistake of ordering a pint of Gamma Ray rather than a pint of London Pride, because when I looked at Tom Bolton's book, I realised that it's this point here, at the meeting of Kensington High Street and Hammersmith Road, was the location of the Countess Bridge, which gives the Countess Creek its name. I would have just carried on otherwise. So we've turned into Avonmore Road with the river that basically runs along the railway line, the course of the railway to our left here. This is the most direct walking route that follows the course of the river. A bit of the old Lost River zigzag here as we approach West Brompton Cemetery and Earls Court. I think this is Matheson Road. And we're turning to leafy Mornington Avenue. This is quite a kind of zigzaggy route. Obviously the river is running straight, but it's running straight along a railway that we can't quite keep close to. This council block here, which I think is the Lytton Estate, has a really wonderful kind of curvature to it, doesn't it? It has a nice, what is that, Art Deco-ish kind of curve to the balconies here. And this is the estate just across the road. That is a real sort of almost insurmountable edifice there on the other side of Cromwell Road. So we've got to turn right here and go left just to get across the road. The river is running to the left of that building there. A number of notable bands played the pub over there. The famous guy was at Three Kings, Joy Division, Selector, Elvis Costello. It's almost a bit like the Red Line in Leytonstone in that respect. The lively, bustling North End Road It's been quite a few years since I've been down here. It's a real hive of activity. This area around here was one of the kind of contested territories that I wrote about in my book, Welcome to New London, because the Earls Court redevelopment tried to scoop in the West Ken and Gibbs Green estate, which wasn't part of the plan. And for a while it looked like 770 or something homes were going to be lost. But there was an amazing campaign here. It was like one of the most sort of strident, colourful, innovative, good-natured campaigns that I came across in that period of time. I mean, it felt like there was a battle for the soul of London, and they've been successful. They saved West Ken and Gibbs Green estate. And the battle goes on, I believe. It's not resolved yet. Wonderful people. Wonderful people. I came down and did a talk for the book earlier this year. I think it was earlier this year. We've now turned into Beaumont Crescent. This is Gibbs Green estate. Part of the estate that would have been scooped into development and demolished. Thankfully saved. We're winding through the back streets here, trying to get close to the river, but we will be on it very soon. And we pass into the great Brompton Cemetery, one of the Magnificent Seven. And this is the West Kensington estate. So we're going to wind our way through the West Kensington estate and out onto Lily Road and then through Brompton Cemetery. It is interesting to walk through the West Kensington estate, but you do just end up back on North End Road. So you reach this junction here with Lily Road. So you could just walk down North End Road. I'm not questioning Tom's directions, but if you're a shorter time, that might be a worthwhile detour. You're going to go down here and then through Brompton Cemetery. I haven't been down here for a while, but I think that tower there is part of the new development. You see lots of references to the new development. And I think we're looking over what was once the Earls Court Exhibition Centre. There's a better view just over the other side of the railway bridge. Wow. I have never seen a queue like that for a pub before in my life. And this was a pub that was closed during lockdown and was going to be, I think it was going to be demolished as part of the development. The street here, I can't quite remember the name, but this is a fairly unique Victorian. Houses here are fairly, I can't remember the exact details, but they have particular kind of architectural merit. And you can see their relationship to the development site because it's just there at the end of the street. And here they are here. And they were going to knock it all down. There was a really wonderful, colourful, Victorian-themed protest here, led by the Earls Court campaign group. Brilliant, amazing campaign group. And it looks like, well, they've been successful in saving the street, which is still here.
Are we ready? We're going to sing Maybe It's Because I'm a Londoner. Now, the lyrics, you can just play the tune once in case some people haven't heard of it, okay? You ready?
Could you tell me a little bit about the situation here?
The situation is that a number of Hammersmith and Fulham residents' associations have applied for the Prince of Wales pub to be an asset of community value. They've nominated it. That means that the Prince of Wales pub and the surrounding Empress Place has been temporarily reprieved from demolition by developer Capco. Now, this is a temporary reprieve. In the meantime, there's local residents very impassioned about saving our Victorian heritage. They're trying to find interesting historical facts to help save these buildings. These buildings are not part of the Earls Court master plan, but Capco have managed to gobble them up as part of their development. So we've lost the exhibition centres, we're going to lose these Victorian workers' cottages, two pubs that are well loved by the local community, all for luxury flats, and then just down the road there's 22 acres of decent homes, West Kensington and Gibbs Green estates. That's going to be demolished by Capco as well. So basically we're here today to reclaim our streets and have a bit of Victorian fun. Local residents have got together, found out about different characters in history, and we've come in costume, and we just want to celebrate our history and just appreciate what we still have.
And also you can see that pub. Well, I've never seen anything like that. So this was once the famous Earls Court Exhibition Centre, and it's now been demolished, and it's going to be more tower blocks like that. Again, I mean, I've written about the campaign and the development in my book Welcome to New London, and I will link to the videos I made here with that campaign group below, but wow, I've not seen it completely cleared like this before. So now we enter our second Magnificent Seven cemetery of the day, the magnificent Brompton Cemetery. Cemetery dates from 1839. And the river is flowing beneath the ground on the right-hand side of the cemetery over there near the railway lines. I had one of the most uncanny filming experiences I've ever had in my life in the cemetery, where I filmed the great filmmaker Andrew Cotting, my favourite filmmaker, the guy that inspired me to pick up a camera and start making films all those years ago. I filmed Andrew here, walking through here, dressed as a straw bear. Dressed as a straw bear. Yeah, that was for my London Overground film. I can't remember why Andrew was dressed as a straw bear in Brompton Cemetery. I don't remember the link at all. But I've used that footage quite a few times actually, because it's extraordinary footage, really. And this is also a place where William Burroughs used to come and make tape recordings on the graves. He would place a tape recorder on the graves, and in the belief that he could pick up the sounds from the undead coming through the gravestones. Quite remarkable. I think there may have been another motivation for him being here. I'll let you guess what that may have been. And at the end of this great walkway, you've got the kind of porticos, colonnades on the right and the left. And at the end, you have the wonderful Brompton Cemetery Chapel. I was very fortunate to screen a filming there. The film I made with Ian Sinclair about Watling Street and Shooters Hill and Steve Moore. It was great. We were invited to screen there by the brilliant Alan Moore. A wonderful experience. And in a nice bit of serendipity, that evening was organised by Strange Attractor Press. It was in honour of Steve Moore and the publication of the book Cellini. And it's Strange Attractor Press who have published Tom Bolton's London's Lost Rivers, A Walker's Guide, both volumes of them. Wonderful small press. And the river must run behind Stamford Bridge football ground, which you can just see there on the other side of the cemetery. Again, continuous tradition of rivers and lost rivers and football stadiums. Memorably, the Hackney Brook running past Arsenal's stadium, the Moselle and Tottenham stadium. Interesting. We're now going to walk along Fulham Road and hopefully catch the point where the river leaves the cemetery. We're not 100% sure we will spot that point. So here we have the entrance to Stamford Bridge, Chelsea Stadium, which seems flanked by apartments. They've just had a shocking season, haven't they, Chelsea? There's the railway bridge there with the Chelsea Stadium to the left. We cross Fulham Road and go down here, I think it's called Wandon Road, which is interesting, which takes us to King's Road. We now turn into the famous King's Road. This isn't really, this doesn't look like the scene of swinging London, of punks with peacock hairstyles, does it? But this is also King's Road. King's Road is a great example of the power of the myths that grow up around places. And I remember first coming to King's Road as a teenager on a trip to London with my mum. It's like I'd seen it on the TV, heard a lot about it. I thought I'd go down King's Road, maybe buy some clothes in the shops here with my saved up Christmas money. And I was so disappointed about King's Road. So disappointed. It did not live up to expectations in any way. And it's kind of had that feeling ever since. And I lived in South Kensington for a bit and we used to come down here. I kind of got used to it as a place, but it's never felt like the place of its myth. I think whatever magic it had was brief and died pretty quick, I think. Unlike Camden, for example, which held on to something, King's Road now is not, I wouldn't say it's a special place anymore, King's Road, nor has it been in the whole time that I've kind of lived in London. We now go down Lots Road with the river flowing to the right. And after following the river underground all the way down from Kensal Green, we now see it above ground. Although now the Counters Creek has become the Chelsea Creek. Always a magical moment when you actually see a lost river. So I think this little footpath here beside the Chelsea Creek must have opened after the publication of Tom's book. Look at it. Isn't it beautiful? Here, it's amazing to think of that little, what must have been a small creek forced into a storm drain, forced into a sewer. It's become this wide river here, about to make its confluence with the Thames. It's funny, I've only ever really seen the Lots Road power station from the other side of the road, but here it is. Huge place. It doesn't get mentioned, does it, like Battersea Power Station and Tate Modern, but it's a powerful old place. Wow, and here it is, where the Counters Creek makes its confluence with the Thames, a sacred place in pagan worship. The offerings that must be in the riverbed down there. What a magical spot, what a majestic spot, what a triumph for this river. They tried to bury and forget about, but it wouldn't be forgotten, it would not be lost. And here it is. Wow. Well, what a triumphant end to this Lost River walk, and what a majestic Lost River walk it's been. That's in my top 5 of the year already, and we're only in May still, just about still in May. Fantastic walk. Thank you so much to Tom Bolton for his wonderful book, which obviously I massively recommend if you want all the history and the info and all the detail, lots of detail. It's in this book along with a bunch of other Lost River walks, and there's volume 1 as well. So with that, I think I need another pint. I don't think one pint is enough to toast the Counters Creek with. So as I always like to say, I look forward to seeing your next walk, wherever that may be. Actually, don't know. That shouldn't be a surprise by now.
Over the meadow, over the stream, it's where I am going and where I have been. It's been a long day now, it's time for a beer, and now for home, of course I must steer. It's over the meadow.